We'll give people a moment here. I am Drew Badger, the founder of EnglishAnyone.com and the English Fluency Guide. Welcome to another live video here on YouTube. I will try to keep this video pretty quick, but hopefully I will have plenty of time to answer questions, any questions you might have. I will keep my eye on the chat, but this shouldn't be, I always say this shouldn't be that long of a video, and then we go for, I don't know, an hour or something. But anyway, let me know if you can see this. We should be live. Let me make sure we are over here. Or maybe, yeah, I think we are. Raul, nice to see you. And George, look at you guys, right on time, even though we're on a different day than usual. Dennis, nice to see you there. From Mexico, hopefully everyone is doing well. Abdesamad, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, hello there. Andrew, yes, using my full name. Makit, how do I pronounce that? From the Philippines, Humberto, hello, hola, and Ihab from Morocco. Edgar, look at that, people from all over the place and some crazy screaming emojis there. All right, so I want to talk about, I had two interesting comments. One was a comment, one was a question. So I want to talk about those in this video. And the first one was a comment here on YouTube, and it was saying, and this is a typical thing I get, a usual thing I hear from English learners. And this one was saying, I've been learning English for many years, but I still don't really understand like English learning methods and how they work. And so I wanted to talk about that and also give an example from a question we answered. So we had a learner who's doing very well in the program, asking lots of questions. So this is a member of Fluent for Life. And I wanted to talk about the answer to that. So the point of this video is to talk about the most important word in English, or the most important English word for fluency. And so if you're kind of like this learner who had the same point about, or had the same question or comment about learning things but still not quite understanding how methods work or what you should be doing. So this learner had learned a lot, they know a lot, they can understand what I'm saying in these videos, but they still struggle to speak. So we'll talk about that in this video. So let me begin with the example I got, or we got from a learner that was talking about, asking about the difference between some uses of phrasal verbs. And phrasal verbs are very common. I always recommend learners learn these. So here are these two examples. So one was to go over the line, and the other was to go over the edge. Now, as I give this quick lesson example here, I'd like you to think about what might be the most important word in English for fluency. So we've got to go over the edge, and the phrasal verbs here are go over. This means to pass a particular point. Like, let's say we have a line on the ground and like a person walking like this, and they go over the line. Like we have this this expression here, to go over the line, and then we have to go over the edge. So the specific question was asking about like, what is the difference between these two, and when is the right context to use them? So the learner was asking, like, if we say to go over the line or to go over the edge, can we say like a man was yelling at his elders, so older people maybe in his community or something. So a person was yelling at their elders, they went over the line, or they went over the edge while they were doing that. So first, like, let's look at the difference between these two things before even talking about context. But looking at just the two examples, when you go over a line, typically going over a line is like an easy kind of thing to do. So if I'm walking like this, let's say I'm just on a path, and there's a little line on the ground right here, so I'm walking like this and I go over the line. Also, you could talk about to cross in the same way. So that's just a different way of expressing this same idea. So instead of to cross the line, you can go over the line. Both of these are the same thing. But when you go over the line, it's pretty easy to go back. You could think about it like that. Like physically, if you go over the line, like, oh, maybe I did something. If I apologize, I could probably go back over the line. So if I say something like my wife says, I don't know, I'm meeting a friend of mine today and I say something silly, I don't know, like something insulting about her friend, and my wife gets angry about that, I probably went over the line saying something. I was like, yeah, she's really nice, but she's kind of loud. Like she talks like very loudly, and maybe my wife doesn't care, but that was, I don't know, just I noticed something and I kind of went over the line. Like I didn't need to say that, but here's just an example of it's not that big of a deal. So even if my wife is upset at me, I can apologize and kind of go back over. So I crossed a line, I did something that maybe offended her or made her feel upset, something like that. So I crossed a line, but it's not that big of a deal. All right, so that's the idea of crossing a line or going over the line. Now, if you think about something like going over the edge, so instead of having a line like this, you can imagine somebody walking on a, like here's like a mountain they're walking on, and this is the edge of the mountain right here. So if you go over the edge, so this is the edge right here, the very end of that. So if you walk over this way and you go over the edge, there's no going back. Okay, so I can't go over the edge and then apologize and then have everything be okay again. All right, so that would mean that going over the line is usually for things that are less severe or less, not important, but you didn't do something really bad. But here, when you go over the edge, that's really something very dangerous, or you go crazy, or something like I go over the edge and kill a bunch of people. So that's not just going over the line. You don't cross a line when you kill someone. You go over the edge when you do that, because there's no coming back from that. Okay, so hopefully you can understand the difference here by looking at these two examples and seeing why we would use these in a conversation. So often we are using these things figuratively or metaphorically, and that just means we're not talking about somebody physically walking anywhere or someone physically going over a mountain, but we can understand these physical examples, and these are just things you can see, so physical examples, but then we understand the more figurative examples, like me saying something insulting about my wife's friend. So I go over the line like that, but if I go over the edge and I go crazy, I'm just really angry and I start, I don't know, punching people, something like that, I'm going over the edge, I'm doing something crazy that I probably should not be doing, and it will be very difficult to apologize for that or repair that situation. All right, so when you go across a line, it's not that big of a deal. Usually you can cross back over by apologizing, but you can't really do that when you go over the edge. Okay, so when something is really severe, you go over the edge, and when something is not so bad, you're crossing a line. Does that make sense? Let me know in the comments. Hopefully by seeing it like this, it becomes easier to understand the difference and why we might talk about like a person just saying something insulting or doing something, maybe I yell at someone or I'm talking to my teacher in a disrespectful way. That's more of going over the line. All right, so if I apologize, it's okay. But here, when I go over the edge, my teacher says something to me and I punch my teacher in the face. That's more than crossing the line. That's going over the edge. We can also call this right here the point of no return. The point of no return. So when you cross over the edge, that's it. Like if you jump over a cliff, you're not jumping back. It doesn't work like that. But if you cross a line, it's okay. Okay, so maybe not that big of a deal, but these are the differences. And this is what we explained, but it's nice when we can actually, show something like this. So getting back to the idea of what is the most important, let me put this in. So the most important English word for fluency. Can anyone guess what this is? So, what is the most important English word for fluency? I'll give you a moment to think about that. It looks like Annette got the idea, but hopefully this story, it really demonstrates like an obvious thing that happens when people are trying to communicate. They get stuck and they're not able to use the language fluently. Okay, so it's not really about maybe the information itself. They might know the vocabulary and even understand it when other people are saying it. So if I use these examples, if I say, oh, my friend went over the line when he said something mean to me, okay, or my friend crossed a line when he said something mean to me, or my friend, you know, he went over the edge, so he got a divorce and he went over the edge and he started calling his wife or his ex-wife 20 times a day. Okay, so if you think about examples like that and you hear that, you can probably understand it. But the thing that actually allows you to use everything confidently and fluently, this is the thing I talk about. Hello, let's learn something new, says Ricardo. Ali Rio, nice to see you there from Chile. Does anyone know? Can anyone guess? What is the most important English word for fluency? I often talk about this in my videos, but I just wanted to make a quick video specifically about this because it's really the biggest thing that people struggle with. I'll give you a hint. Lots of people talk about like the particular issues they have with communication. They might forget words in conversations, or maybe they struggle with their accent. They have maybe problems where it's hard to produce some sounds, or their accent is difficult to understand. So natives maybe ask them to repeat their words again. Let's see, Nawful says, get. It's a good guess. Ned says, I don't know. I'll just give you the answer. But most people, they talk about the various problems they have. So let me erase this example up here. So when people try to communicate, if they have various problems, like the goal is speaking, so the goal, we'll just say speaking. So the person is over here, and they want to be able to reach this goal to communicate fluently, to speak and express themselves, but often they are blocked because of various problems, again, like I just mentioned, forgetting words or struggling with grammar rules, things like that. So they can often understand, but the problem is they lack certainty. And that's why I often say that the most important English word for fluency is certainty. And this ties back to the question or the comment I got from another learner in another video here on YouTube, where they were talking about, I don't understand about different like methods or whatever, and so I can understand a lot, but I still have trouble speaking. The real issue, it doesn't matter how you learn the language. The important thing is, are you getting certainty or not? All right, so that's really the main important thing. If I can make it very simple for people, if the way you learn makes you feel certain, and the certainty is what gives you confidence to speak, then you're doing the right thing. So there's not just one way. Even me, I use a variety of techniques or ways to help people get certainty, but the goal here is giving people certainty so you feel confident about speaking. So looking at the example again here, like a learner asking, what's the difference between going across a line or going over a line versus going over the edge? That's a problem of certainty. You have a question about how to use something, you're unsure about which is correct. But once you understand the difference, then you get certainty, you feel confident, and that's how you're able to use it, okay? So yes, there are lots of very commonly used words, but often on this channel, I'm trying to get people to think more deeply about how they learn, because knowing individual words and grammar is great if you feel certain about them. But if you do not, then you're probably not really learning in a way that's going to help you communicate. All right, so there could be lots of ways that you can get fluent, even ways I've never heard of or various methods that other people teach. It doesn't matter. But for you as a learner to evaluate or to judge if something, like even if you're watching this video right now and you think, I don't understand what this guy is saying, then I'm not giving you certainty and I'm not doing my job. So however you're learning, you should be feeling more certain. That is the goal, because certainty is what allows you to speak. If you do not have certainty, that's when you're going to struggle and hesitate, even if you can understand what other people say. All right? So the good news about this, like feeling certain when you speak, you don't need to practice speaking in order to reach that. So if I've given you a lesson here, even just this one example, the difference between going over a line and going over the edge, just seeing the two differences here, if you understand that and you feel more confident about using those things, then you have become more fluent, even though you have not spoken anything to me. So you might be repeating things or copying the way I speak. That's fine. But the point is, you don't need to be speaking with me in order to improve, as long as you're getting certainty. All right. So I wanted to just make this quick video. Now I want to answer any questions people might have if I can give you certainty about particular things. So again, just to prove the point, if you have questions about grammar or pronunciation or whatever, I'd like to answer some of those now. So this is your chance. If you do have anything, maybe you recently tried using a word, or you have a question about a particular phrase or grammar point, whatever the question might be, or even pronunciation. If you'd like some help with using things more like a native, I'm here to answer those questions. But this is the basic idea. So however you're learning, whatever you might be trying, you could be reading books or listening to podcasts or watching videos like this one, whatever it is you're doing, the key should be certainty. If you're getting certainty from how you're learning, great, keep doing more of that. But if you're not, then it's time to change. And hopefully in this video, maybe with some examples, I can give you some more ways that you can develop certainty with your learning, even by yourself. So what I do in programs like Fluent for Life is I give you certainty just like I'm doing here. So I can easily show you differences between words, and that's one way to get certainty. When you're comparing two different things, it helps your brain understand those very easily. And this is why I recommend naturally varied review, which means you're getting a lot of varied examples of things, like hearing different people pronounce the same word or even say the same sentence. And so you'll hear slight differences in pronunciation, but all of them are correct. And this will help you feel much more confident about speaking. So anyway, let me check comments, see if anybody has any. I'll go back through very quickly to make sure I didn't miss anybody. I think I've got some good hellos and how are yous. I'll go through those very quickly, see if anybody has any questions. Let's see. Abdesamad says, thank you so much. You have helped me a lot in getting my speaking right. Glad to hear it. Renee from Brazil. Vanderil says, Vanderilli says, I'm from Brazil. It's good to see you here. Well, and greets from Kenosha. You would say greets, like Gree, like greetings from Kenosha. I've been to Kenosha. I went to a Kenosha Twins baseball game many years ago. That's not far from Chicago. Let's see. Jamek says, really, I like your English. Glad to hear it. Let's see, it was easy to understand. Ricardo says, hello, everyone. And I think I got those other ones. Let's see, use the word in a different context. So if you're asking me to use like stepping over the line, let me know, Ricardo, if that's what you're asking for. You'd like more examples. But again, that's another good way of trying to get understanding for things. So until you feel certain that you understand what something means, you probably will have trouble remembering it, using it, pronouncing it, all of those things that come with any difficulty with vocabulary. All right, Rolla says, good evening. I missed the beginning. Well, you can go back and watch it. Spartan says, he's a cute. Remember to put a apostrophe in there. He is a cute. Well, you're too kind. Well, Venom, look at there. Good morning. I hope you all have a great day. Christian, hello, everyone. And Jelton says, Drew, the verb ought is rarely or often used by you in your daily conversation. It depends on what I'm talking about. So if I'm giving people advice, I might say you ought to do something, ought. Or if I'm even talking to myself, like I ought to study more, I ought to practice more, I ought to read more, something like that. But I don't know, maybe it's a good idea if I get someone to record my English all day. I'm probably a special case because I don't speak normally in an English environment the way many Americans might. So if I were living in America, then maybe I would, I don't know, even be speaking more. But I just don't use that much English daily anyway. I don't spend a lot of time talking with other people. So this is my chance to speak with you all. But I ought to maybe pay attention to that. I ought to. I suppose I could. Or you ought to do something. And it also depends on if you're speaking, again, with other people where you're talking, maybe giving advice or recommendations of something. So if my child is doing something and I'm being very, I don't know, I'm not being very forceful. I'm not saying you have to do something. I'm saying you ought to turn off the TV right now and do your homework. If I say that, I sound kind of weak as a parent. So in that case, I probably wouldn't use ought. But if I'm just giving general advice, like a friend of mine is saying, oh, okay, I'm stuck with this or I'm having trouble, I say, oh, you ought to do this. And it will often sound in conversations like oughta. So this is it's a regular blended contraction, the way we talk about ought to, like you ought to do something. But natives, just like we say gotta, have to, needa, we say, oh, you oughta. Yeah, you oughta get up, you oughta exercise in the morning. You oughta do that. You oughta do that. Let's see. Rolla says, can I get certainty about abstract idea? What does mean abstract? I heard it in the last video. Sure. So an abstract idea is different from a concrete idea, like the examples were here or here. Like this is a physical, concrete thing you can see. But an abstract thing is more like an idea or a concept like justice or I don't know, like a freedom. That's an abstract idea. So I can't hold freedom like that. I can't show you what a picture of freedom looks like. I could kind of compare those, and even in Frederick, the app I have where we show all of these meanings of words with images, we can take a figurative idea and demonstrate it like in a physical way. But typically an abstract idea just means it's not something you could physically see. That's the main or the best way to understand it. So if I put, I think one of the images we have in Frederick, so it's comparing, it looks like this. It's like a fish or a whale or some kind of fish, I think, in like a bowl, and then just like the same fish over here. I know they don't look the same, but one of these is like, I think the word for this is like captive. So Frederick, I know people might think it looks like a game for kids, but it teaches you lots of advanced vocabulary as well. And so this is one of the images for it. There are 4 different images for each of the words in the app, but you can scroll through those and see the difference. So here we're taking an abstract idea like a captive, or I could even show a physical thing like I'm holding something. So right here, this whale is like captive. It's not a free swimming out in the ocean whale. It's just like here it is, like captured in some way. So it's still even hard to understand with just one image, and that's why we have a bunch. But we can take, again, a figurative idea or like something like this and show it physically, but we can talk about like I have like I am captivating or I have captured your attention. So I'm using that word in a figurative way. It's more of an abstract way of thinking about it. Let me know if that doesn't make sense, but that's the basic idea. People talk about concrete things. Usually you can see it, a physical thing, versus abstract. Abstract. So just things you can't really see very well, but maybe you can understand what they mean, usually from context or a story or something like that. Hello, I'm from Korea. My name is Henyi. Haney, my great teacher. Well, hello again. Nice to see you there, Haney. Okay, I think I remember. Yes, I remember your name. Jalton, hello from Brazil. Carlos, good evening. Samuel, hello. What can I do to be confident in order to be able to speak without fear? So the people talk about, let me erase the board right quick. I have on my computer what I call the pain document. The pain document. It's just a Word file that I have kept comments and questions and emails from learners over the years. And in this document, you will see the word confidence a lot, like many, many times this word confidence appears. But what I'd like people to understand from this video is that certainty is the real thing to focus on. So when people talk about confidence, that's a real feeling you have when you're in a conversation. You don't know a word or you get stuck trying to speak. You feel that lack of confidence. But the reason for this is certainty. And so what's interesting about this pain document is that, like, let's say there are 100 examples of the word confidence. There are only maybe like 4 examples of someone talking about certainty. So very few people actually think about this, but once you understand it, it makes a lot of sense. Like, okay, I have a lack of confidence when I speak. And so lots of courses and teachers, they talk about giving you confidence, but where does that confidence really come from? It comes from certainty. So when you talk about like giving someone confidence, what you're really saying, or like the real goal here, is to make them feel certain about their words. And so if you lack confidence, usually it's because you lack certainty about whatever it is you're learning. So it could be uncertainty, you feel unsure, you're feeling worried or nervous, you're not quite 100% sure about something. It could be grammar or pronunciation or vocabulary, whatever, but this is the reason here. So if you just say like, I'm not feeling confident about something, and this is what most people experience. So in the conversation, you feel unconfident, but the reason for that is a lack of certainty. All right. So again, I wanted to make this video talking about this specific point because most people don't really think about it like this. And so what happens is they're trying to get confident from other sources or other ways of learning. So one thing that a lot of learners do is they try to learn more words. So they realize, okay, I have a problem with confidence. I don't feel certain, like, and they're again not really thinking about certainty, but I'm just unsure. I feel unconfident in conversations for whatever reason. So I should learn more vocabulary. Okay, so maybe if I know more words, I will speak better. All right, or they think they're too old to learn, or I need to live in an English-speaking country, or whatever. But really, the thing that you need is certainty. So once you feel certain, it doesn't matter where you live. So I could live in Japan, I could live in the United States, and I still feel certain about speaking Japanese. So a lot of my improvement in Japanese actually came when I went back to America. So I lived in Japan for about 2 years, and I got better in my Japanese. But when I lived in America, I was living in Seattle for a while, and Alaska actually, for a little bit after I left Japan for about 2 years, I think 2 or 3 years. And I met Japanese people there, and I was still finding ways to practice speaking. But the more important thing is that I was understanding more Japanese and becoming more certain about speaking. Okay, so even when I didn't have people to talk with, the goal was certainty. So I realized, I actually, like, this is the thing I need. I don't want to just like be confident about the language. You don't just magically become confident for no reason. Some people are. Some people just feel very confident even though they don't really know the language very well. And that's great if you have natural confidence like that. But for most people, confidence comes from certainty. Okay. So until you feel certain or sure about something, you will probably have trouble using it. And I often give examples like, let's say I can't think of how to spell a word. So I am a native English speaker. I want to write something like writing a physical note, but I don't remember how to spell something like, how do you spell elephant? I don't remember how to spell that. It's like E-L-O-L-O, like elephant. If I'm unsure about how to spell something, I'm probably not going to write that word. I'm going to pick a different word or do something. But natives do this all the time when they forget how to spell something. So the correct spelling, E-L-E-P-H-A-N-T, elephant. Hey, I know how to say and write that word. So I feel certain about it, and I can use the word elephant. So what happens is you become certain about individual words and phrases as you learn them. You don't become fluent in the whole language. You become fluent when you feel certain about these individual words and phrases. And as you learn them, you start making connections. You naturally make connections and seeing connections between all these different things. And that's how you become fluent in a language. It's your ability to make connections and speak, but that comes from feeling certain about the links in the chain there. So if you have a chain like this, so the chain, all these little links, each one of these links, a link in the chain like that. So each one of these links in the chain, if one of these is weak, then the chain will break. Okay, so that chain link, that chain link will break and you will not be able to communicate. So you want to feel certain about each one of these things. And it's very easy once you start thinking about certainty, then you think, oh, okay, I feel pretty good about my pronunciation, but there are a few sounds I don't know how to make well. So I should feel certain about those. I should get more examples of those things, and I will feel certain about saying that, and I will speak better much faster. Okay? So when people talk about confidence, it's really a lack of certainty about something. It could be uncertainty about grammar or pronunciation or whatever. But be thinking about this idea, because confidence, when you just think about confidence, it's more like a feeling you have. So when you are confident, you can speak. When you are not confident, you can't speak. But where does confidence come from? So I like to remind people it comes from certainty. All right. So if you can think of another place that confidence comes from, that would be great. But of all the things I've looked for over 20 years of teaching, and then an additional 15, 20 more years of trying to learn different languages and still failing to do that, the problem was always the same thing. It was just I lacked certainty about what I wanted to say. Okay. All right. So let's see here. All right, so hopefully, Samuel, that answers your question. Iroda says, Assalamu alaikum from Uzbekistan. Tarik, good morning, sir. Jalton, thanks for the explanation. Aki Khan says, hello, teacher. I wonder if you think using Pomodoro technique is useful for English learning. I don't know what that is. Isn't that a kind of tomato? Like a Pomodoro tomato? I don't know. Maybe that's a different, I don't know if you can explain more about what that is. But again, what I've just shared in this video is a good way to evaluate any learning method, whether you are talking with me or not. So you say, hey, Drew, what do you think about X method? Like, should I learn with this app or this product or this teacher or whatever? Does it give you certainty or not? All right. So you can get certainty all over the place. It's just more difficult to get it by yourself if you're maybe learning random things and you're not feeling confident about using them. So often there are higher level learners, maybe intermediate learners. They can watch movies and TV shows. They understand everything I'm saying, but they still lack certainty about their vocabulary or their pronunciation or grammar. And that's what actually stops them from speaking. So listening is a different skill than using the vocabulary. You need to know the vocabulary better. You need to be certain about what you want to say. So when you're listening, you don't need to be certain. You're getting the general idea. Even if I'm speaking, you understand what I'm saying, but maybe you could not speak the same way I do. You don't have to be certain to understand. You just need the general idea. You hear these words and you understand what they mean. But when you are speaking, most people need to feel confident when they speak, and so that's why you need certainty. All right. So yeah, let me know if you have a particular, I don't know what Pomodoro is. I do like Pomodoro tomatoes, though. Aren't those like the kind of long, it's like this, right? Isn't that a Pomodoro tomato? Maybe, I don't know. I'm trying to think about a tomato can I saw recently. Trisno says, I've learned English for past 2 years, but still can't speak English fluently. Okay, so here's an example. Let's look at this comment. I'm going to write that whole thing up there. Let me see this again. So I've learned English. I've learned English. I've learned English for past 2 years. I've learned English for past 2 years, but can't speak English fluency. Okay. All right, now I want to use this example because there are many mistakes in it, so don't feel bad if I'm correcting this. Hopefully everybody can learn a little bit from this. But I'm going to first say the sentence correctly. I understand what you are trying to say. So even for me, when I'm listening to something, I can hear incorrect English and still get the idea, because listening is a different skill than speaking. But because I have skill, I have certainty about my own English, I can correct this and help you understand how to say it correctly. So first, I've learned English for past 2 years, but can't speak English fluency. All right, so how would I say this correctly? I've learned English for the past 2 years, but can't speak English fluently. All right, let me say it one more time. I've learned English for the past 2 years, but can't speak English fluently. I can't speak English fluently. Now, what this shows, this is a really good example of someone who has a lot of vocabulary, but they don't know how to connect it correctly. Okay, so this person can probably understand. I'm sure, like listening to me right now, if you can understand what I'm saying, but you still feel trouble or you have difficulty when you're trying to speak, it's because you don't really know these things very well. You don't know them enough to use them. You don't feel certain about your vocabulary. So first of all, I've learned English. That's correct for, we'll just put this corrections here in blue, for the past 2, and we would probably just, I understand in a comment, maybe you're typing quickly, you don't care about perfect pronunciation or punctuation or spelling, that's fine. But just so I want to make sure people understand this. So I've learned English for the past 2 years, comma, but can't speak, or you could even say, but I, if you want to add that, but I can't speak English fluently. All right, so to speak fluently. So what happens when people are learning, like when they kind of get different pieces of the language, but they don't feel certain about that, they're not getting enough examples where they actually have the confidence to use something correctly. So that's why you can understand a lot, but you're still lacking certainty. So you don't really feel certain, you don't really feel confident about using something correctly. So I've learned English. Like this is perfect right here. I've learned English. So this is one of those things, like maybe you recognize a pattern, you understand that, like I've played baseball, I've done this, so I have this experience. So I have been to China, I have danced before, I have done something. But for the past 2 years, all right? So for the past 2 years. So this is almost perfect right here, the beginning part. So I've learned English for the past 2 years, but I can't speak English fluently. So when we're talking about an action, we're talking about like speak quickly, speak slowly, speak fluently, speak confidently. As you hear those examples, your brain starts recognizing a pattern there. It's like, oh, like I speak fluently, I speak confidently, I speak happily, I speak excitedly. Okay, and that way you're not thinking about like fluency, which is, it's like a noun by itself, like just like talking about fluency as a thing. But if you're talking about how you do something, I go quickly, I go fluently. All right, so I'm able to speak or play or write or act or do something fluently. And so as you hear those examples, like this kind of comment, it shows me that the person has learned the language, but they haven't really learned to be confident and certain about it, because they probably haven't gotten a range of examples where the language feels natural at that point. Often people are learning, they're studying lists of words or rules, and often using translations to do that, and it gives you a lot of information so you can understand when I'm speaking. But if you're not feeling natural, if it doesn't feel like, oh, I know which of these is correct. Like, do we say like go fluently, F-L-U-E-N-T-L-Y, or fluency? So you should be able to think very quickly, oh, like it's definitely go fluently. go fluently, not go fluency. In the same way that I might say go quickly, go slowly, go whatever. So you have a sense for what's correct rather than trying to think about rules. All right. So if like this is a really good example of, I mean, I bet if I could listen to you speaking, I would probably notice more problems like this where you recognize the language, but maybe you just don't feel very certain about it. And usually the people are not getting certainty because they're just getting a few examples or just trying to study some rules through translations. And that's what stops you from understanding things in English. So it's very important to understand in English the same way a native does, because when you do that, you feel certain about speaking. Okay. So good comment. I understand exactly what you're saying, but that's a reason why a lot of people struggle. So they learn, there are many ways to learn English, but if it's not giving you certainty, then it's probably wasting your time. All right, Michelle says, greetings from Uruguay. Nice to see you there, Jill. And Drew, what is the difference between words perhaps and maybe? It depends on the context. So perhaps is more of it's almost like a more advanced way of saying maybe, but I'm maybe thinking a bit more like I'm trying to decide what I want to do, and I'm being more careful and deliberate and thinking like perhaps I should do something. It's maybe a more important question. But if a friend says, hey, are you coming to the party tomorrow? And I don't know, I just say maybe. Like it would sound a little bit weird to say like perhaps I will come to the party tomorrow. So it's almost like a higher level word or whatever. So in a more academic or a professional setting, I might use perhaps, something like that. Like I'm the president of a company and I say perhaps we should do this. Perhaps we should start selling this other product or move to a different country or something like that. If I say maybe, it sounds a little weaker in that situation. So again, when people talk about the differences between things, it's really good to, and I try to help you do this, but I'm just one man. So it's better to get a lot of examples from a variety of people. That way you can really understand things in context and understand the nuances of things. That will give you a lot more certainty about words. So rather than just like looking at here's, maybe over here, perhaps over here. Some people might use them interchangeably and some people might not. Some people might think, whoa, that's a little weird. Like, are you like, maybe it will be like rainy today. I'm just talking very casually. Maybe it will rain today. Perhaps it will rain today. I could use either of those. Nobody would really think it's weird if I say that, but I think more people would use maybe just because it's more casual. So again, I'm trying to give you some different examples, but it's good to get lots of examples of words to really hear the differences between things, and especially within different contexts. Let's see. And Trisno says, I'm very struggle when learn frasa and grammar. Do you mean phrases? Is that what you're trying to say? Do you think those important? Yes. So, I mean, your ability to speak, and I've given this example before. I'll put my English fluency profile example. It's kind of at the bottom of the video over here, but you have different skills that all work together when you communicate. So you might have a vocabulary, like we can call that a skill or just your knowledge. You might have confidence, you might have pronunciation, other things like that. And each one of these things works together to let you speak. So what happens is someone with a big vocabulary, maybe they know a lot of words, but their confidence is very weak. They're going to struggle to speak because the real problem is confidence. It's not their vocabulary. And often learners like this, they continue to learn more, like the example I gave before in this video. People who already know a lot of words, who struggle to speak, they still learn more vocabulary, even though a maybe quick fix to their confidence would help them improve that instead. So the real problem, the real thing stopping you from speaking is your confidence rather than the amount of words you know. So this is also why you can improve your English speaking confidence with the vocabulary you already know and speak better today. So this is what I do in like the Native Fluency Blueprint or Fluent for Life. Oh no, I got to sneeze. Oh no, it went away. Anyway, so in this example, you might be weak in some areas and strong in others, but when you think about like, is pronunciation important or is grammar important or whatever, like, yes, all of these things are important. And if you feel confident but you lack vocabulary, then you don't really have that, then like the confidence thing is less of your problem and you should be learning more words. So it depends on the particular thing you struggle with. But yes, all of those things are important. Let's see, and Pa says certainty. I'll keep that in mind. Yes. Hello, CM Punk. That's like a little, says Brittany teacher. Akikan says, Drew, do you think play a video game with set language and voice into English is a good way to learn English? So like now everybody watching this video can answer this question for a learner about anything. So, hey, Drew, what do you think about this method? Should I read books? Should I listen to podcasts? Should I do whatever? Like when people ask me about those particular things, what would I say to that, do you think? What would be my answer to any question like that? I'm always curious about how people are learning, like the different names for particular methods or whatever. I should just call, myself like the Badger method or whatever, but then I still have to explain what I do. But, it's it's kind of a pain because when people learn in English or learn whatever language, when they learn naturally, you don't have to think about like grammar and stuff like that, because you just understand the rules naturally without thinking about it the same way a native does. But I'll see if anybody can answer that question for me. What would I say? If someone says, hey, Drew, what do you think about X way of learning? What would be my answer to that? Let's see. And Rose says, I can't speak fast. If you can't speak fast, it means you probably lack certainty even about saying things slowly. So as an example, let's say I hear a tongue twister, like how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? So that's, maybe I hear that for the first time. I try to read that, or it's difficult for me. Maybe I'm learning it in a different language. So English is not my first language, and I read, how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? So when I'm first learning that, I'm going to be quite slow. I won't be able to say it quickly. But as I really feel certain about the words, how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? So I can get faster than that. So what most people are trying to do, they want to go to the speed first before they get certainty. So you really want to feel more confident and certain about things, and that's the secret that unlocks everything. So it could be speaking faster, speaking correctly, feeling more confident. All of that comes from certainty. So it's a very simple way to think about language learning. And even when people talk about comprehensible input, the idea is what you should be going for. You want comprehensible input that gives you certainty. So I need a couple of different examples in order to understand something, or maybe even just one, but the whole point is to be certain about what you're learning. Danielle says, first time here, I joined Fluent for Life. Hey guys, welcome, Daniela. Oh, Daniela, I think it's good to see you. So we're answering your question. Hopefully you enjoy the video. Let's see. Akikan says, also, Daniela, let us know, we asked you already, if you didn't already respond, what held you back from joining before you joined the program? Because I'm sure other people might have questions or concerns about joining the program as well, but you've been doing great in the program. Akikan says, the Pomodoro technique is a method that involves studying for 25 minutes followed by a 5-minute break, then repeating this cycle. What? Studying for 25 minutes and then repeating this cycle? What is it? Is a time management method for working or studying. It has 25-minute working intervals separated by short breaks of 5 minutes, but you can customize it. Okay. All right. So if I hear something like that, like here is the method. My method is, if someone comes to me and they say, hey, Drew, how are you going to get me fluent? Hey, Drew, how are you going to get me fluent? So how will you get me fluent? How will you get me fluent? And I say, okay, great. I have I'll call it the tomato technique. The tomato technique, where you will study for 10 minutes, and then you will go outside and run for 10 minutes. So study, and then run for 5 minutes. That's my technique. So you study for 10 minutes, then you run outside for 5 minutes, and then you just repeat this again and again. What do you think about that? Would that answer your question? If I could, maybe I think too much about how to help people learn. I think too deeply about it. What I need is something simple like this. I need to say, hey guys, this is what you do. You study for 10 minutes, then you take a break for 5 minutes, and then study for 10 minutes again. That's the whole method. That's going to get you fluent. Now, if someone told that to me, I would say like, okay, what exactly am I doing during this study time? I understand the break time. The break time, I get it. I can play PlayStation, or I can read a book, or watch a movie or whatever. But what exactly am I doing here? And often, if you listen closely to what people talk about when they're describing a method, they don't actually say how the fluency works. They don't say like what it is, the thing they're doing. Now, you haven't really explained, or no one has told me yet about this Pomodoro method and exactly what you do. I'm sure maybe they give like, okay, you do this and this and this and this or whatever. But for me, the way I would evaluate this, just like I would evaluate the learning English with video games or whatever question is, does it give you certainty? Does it give you certainty? Does it give you certainty? Question mark. So, does the method give you certainty? Now, if I'm giving the Pomodoro method a try over here, and the teacher says, well, so what you need in order to become a confident speaker is you need to study grammar rules a lot. And I say, okay. So I go home and I start studying grammar rules. And I notice like I understand more, but I'm not speaking better. And I say, well, what I'm studying, I'm following the method, but like how does that work exactly? Like I feel like I'm studying, I'm working hard, but something's not working here. So I spend a month trying to follow this method, like whatever, and I don't know exactly what this is. I'm just making this up. But often when I hear people describing things, they don't just explain what the method is. Like for me, the method is give you certainty. And I'm going to do that in a variety of ways, like I gave the example before, but that's the whole point. So it's not about like, I don't know, studying a particular thing and people, this is more of a marketing idea than anything else, where you have the name of a method. It's like the name of a diet. Like, oh, I do the X diet, or this like kind of thing. So we got to give a name to it, but there's not much talk about what it actually does. And so the thing you really need to speak is certainty. Until you feel certain about your words, you will either forget them or struggle with pronunciation or grammar or anything else. So that's the whole point. And that's why I talk about that. And so whenever I hear about like a particular method, like this idea of, like studying for, 20 minutes, but then having a break for 5 minutes, it doesn't tell me anything about how that helps me learn. All right. So it's like if I have a hole in my wall, like there's a hole in my wall and I need someone to come fix that. And if I have some guys come over, I say, hey, how are you going to fix the hole in my wall? They say, well, we're going to work for 10 minutes, and then we're going to take a break for 5 minutes, and then we're going to work again for 10 minutes, and then take a break for 5 minutes, and then that's how we do it. And I say, all right, well, like what exactly are you doing during that time? Now, if they say, oh, you have a hole in the wall, what we're going to do is we're going to put a little bit of stuff in here, and then we're going to fill it with this other thing, and then smooth it over, and it takes about 10 minutes, and that's how you do it. I would say, oh, fantastic, please fix my wall. Okay, so the same thing I'm doing here, just like people coming to fix a hole in my wall. When people come to me and they say, Drew, how are you actually going to get me fluent? I say, oh, well, the problem you have is you lack certainty. So you know a lot of words, but you don't really feel very confident about using them. So if we can give you certainty, and there are many ways I would do that. Part of that is helping you contrast words or showing you physical examples or other things like that that help you understand it like a native, rather than trying to learn things kind of in like an academic way or the way a student might do them. So I don't want to give you translations or definitions. I really want to help you understand things like a native. And that's why every video I do, I'm trying to give some kind of examples about how it works. All right, let's see. Got a lot of good questions here. So thank you. Like, if you can tell me more about what this method is, I'd love to hear about it, other than how much time I spend doing different stuff. Mike says, hi, y'all. Greetings from Colombia. Brittany says, Drew, I write very well in English, but still struggle speaking. Why is that? I create some stories, but I don't speak that well. All right, so try to get very specific about what the issue is. Again, some kind of uncertainty there about something. So think about what that is. Is it pronunciation? Is it grammar? Or even for particular words? So I might say one thing fluently and another thing like not be able to use it well. So you become fluent or certain about individual words and grammar as you learn to use them correctly. So that's how it works. So as you become certain, there's probably some kind of things that you don't use very well, or you lack certainty about whatever those things are. So a story might be too big of a thing to use for your example. So think about a specific word or phrase and maybe you feel uncertain about that, but for that word or phrase, get more examples of that thing. So it could be, if you're unsure about the pronunciation, hear different people saying it, like youglish.com. I think that's still a thing. I haven't went there. I haven't been there in a while, but I hear people using it. And so that's a way to hear different people saying different phrases. That gives you a kind of naturally varied review. But yeah, like, try not to think about a story. Think about individual words and phrases and make sure you can use them correctly, without any hesitation, without any doubt, because you feel certain about them. Ganesh says, hi, Drew. Could you explain the difference between this sentence on your board and I've been learning English for the past 2 years, but I can't speak English fluently? Well, that's correct. So I've been learning English for the past 2 years, but I can't speak English fluently. So yeah, so that's fine, other than having no period at the end. But like that, yeah, but that's fine. But that's, yeah. Eamon says, I have come late. You had already been started. Yes, so that's again another incorrect English that I understand what you're saying, but you probably would benefit from getting some more examples that help you understand things like a native. Mike says, I'm learning Deutsch. So look at that, learning some German through English. It's helping me quite a lot with my pronunciation. That's good. If it's helping you, great. I always recommend people learn the language in the language itself if you can. But most language lessons are typically done through translations. Even very popular apps just continue to help people learn things through a different language. That's why they ask, like, oh, I'm a speaker of French and I want to learn Japanese, and then it's going to give you translations for everything. But for an app like Frederick that I made, this is learning English all in English. So if any of you have children that you want to help them understand English very quickly by themselves without learning the traditional way that's going to cause a lot of problems, give them Frederick. Just click on the link in the description below this video. Also, it works very well for my adult learners, but I particularly want to help the next generation so that they don't have those same kinds of issues that we did from learning the traditional way through translations. I can't read the Cyrillic there, but hello from Belarus. I want to thank Drew for your activity. I've been learning English for 15 years, and I couldn't speak. After your program and many videos, I can speak well now. God bless you. Awesome. That's fantastic. If you know other people who would enjoy the videos and programs, then please recommend them. We're always glad to hear from more people who enjoy what we do. Please send us a mail, actually. Let's see, Mike says it went away. Oh, you're talking about the sneeze. Brittany says, why don't you offer private classes? There are two reasons. The first reason is that I don't really have time to do that, and it would be very expensive for people. Even if people paid me a lot of money, I still wouldn't do it. But the deeper reason is learning from one teacher is helpful, but it's not going to prepare you very well for real life. So it's like if I only learn English from my mom and then I go out into the real world and all these other people are speaking differently, or they have a different accent, or they have different ways of expressing themselves, or different levels of politeness, different levels of clarity, different speaking speeds. So all of the variety in real life, like often what happens, I'll erase this. I do like the tomato technique. That will be the new method I developed, the tomato technique, where I will say you only have to learn for 5 minutes instead of 25 minutes. But so let's say I am, like here's a learner over here, and they're talking with one teacher. Now, one teacher can teach you a lot, just like I can teach you a lot in these videos, but it's still just me. And so there is a gap between all these different people that you will experience in movies and TV shows, real life, music, all of these different kinds of English. And so if you only learn with a private teacher, you will learn a lot, but you will still be unprepared for real life. So I could give people lessons, but I don't know, I feel bad. I feel bad as a teacher that I can't really help people in the way I want to help them. So maybe as like a business idea, it's okay to do it. Like I should just do it anyway, because people ask me about private lessons. They say, hey, Drew, like, can you teach me privately? And I'll say, sure, it's going to be this much. And, you know, maybe some people would do that because they would get fluent faster, but it would still leave them unprepared for real communication. So, like instead of just learning with a private teacher, it's much better to get a whole bunch of varied examples from native speakers. And if you can do that in a structured way, that's even better than learning with a private teacher, because most people, like I've seen this, I worked as a teacher, I taught private lessons here in Japan for many years, and I've seen lots of people do that. I've seen people go for years and years taking private lessons and they still can't speak very well. But the people who can speak well, they get all of this over here. They find some way to get that information. Either they go live abroad or they watch a lot of movies or something like that, but they're getting all this information. So the people with private lessons are usually not doing very well. Okay? So that's just me from my experience. Obviously, like a private teacher is helpful, but it's only one piece of what you should be doing. So in Fluent for Life, this is what we do. It's like having a private teacher where you're getting whatever it is you want to learn. You can have me teach you things. Plus, you get to see all these examples of real natives talking about things. Okay, so you can see a variety of examples of people speaking, different speaking speeds, different levels of clarity, different ways of expressing things. And all of that is really what prepares you for for real life. Let's see. All right, I think, did I skip somebody over here? Let's see. Okay. So Mike says, you're the most natural English teacher. Well, hopefully that's helpful for you. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Rolla says, the answer that if it gives you certainty so you could speak, keep doing it. If not, stop it. Very good. Rolla is my new manager. So Rolla will now answer any questions about people asking me about various methods. Thank you very much. Alton says, Drew, explain the expression merry-go-round. It's not really an expression. It's a physical thing. Like being merry is being happy and having fun, and you go around like this. Like it's actually better to look at a picture of a merry-go-round on Google and just see what one looks like. And then you'll know exactly what it is. So do a Google image search for merry-go-round and you will see it for yourself. Vake, if I'm pronouncing Vake, hello, Drew, and all. Rose says, thank you, Drew. And Dieguito from Brazil, or Dieguito. Eamon says, I have come late. You have already been started the live. Yes, we began earlier, but remember, you can go back and watch these videos anytime. Mike says, I'm trying to make out to catch words, listening natives. Their speed is so fast with the contraction and make my ear used to it. Yes, so it can be very difficult for people. Again, the same kind of idea here. Many people learn with private lessons, and they just still struggle when it comes to regular English speakers, regular native speakers in movies or TV shows or whatever. So it's better to get a mix of both of these things and do it systematically so you can feel much more confident when you speak, all right? So it's kind of like it's like a staircase. Like for what we do in Fluent for Life, like we start you at a lower level where you can understand me, and you get some other examples, and then finally you hear how things are in real conversations. So it's all of the same vocabulary, some of the same grammar, things like that, but you're getting it in stages so you can hear it and understand it better, all right? So you feel more confident, you feel more certain about it as you go. But what happens for most people learning, they don't have all these steps there. So we erase all that, and they just go from trying to take a private lesson here to jumping up to native conversations, and often it's just too difficult for people. You're unprepared for all of the real ways that people speak, and that's why a lot of people struggle. Let's see here. So that, yeah, again, like if you can hear me say something and then hear some natives say something as well, you will think, oh, now I get it. Like now I can understand what they're saying. But if you just try to go directly to natives, it's going to be more difficult. And that's why even in like when I'm teaching my own children, I will give them slower examples of things first and then give them faster examples later. So they're prepared for that. So they might hear something in a TV show. I say, oh, this is what they said. Let me explain it a little bit. Let me help you understand that. And then they feel prepared when they hear something. So we do that a lot. Like I was watching the Disney Aladdin cartoon movie, not the Will Smith one, the old cartoon. My older daughter Aria enjoys that movie, and we were watching that, and sometimes she would ask me questions about things, or I would just tell her some different vocabulary and explain why we're saying different things in the movie, and she got to understand it much better that way. So again, that's like, it's not just me giving private lessons like I'm only saying things. She's also hearing it in the movie and hearing different people say those things. So you need all those examples if you really want to feel prepared. The point is not just to learn English, it's to be able to speak in real conversations. All right, so for most people, if you're just trying to learn English for fun, you don't actually care about speaking or understanding anything, then like just learning English is great. Get some translations and learn English. But if you actually want to speak, you need to, again, get lots of examples of people actually communicating in the real world. All right, Ali Real says, hello teacher, what do you think about English learning with Duolingo? I have already finished the course. Did it make you fluent? Did it give you certainty? I don't know. Like, I mean, that's the question. So like, if you're asking me what I think about that, I don't know. I'm asking you, what do you think about that? Did Duolingo help you become a confident speaker? If it did, great. When I've played with Duolingo, certainly like, I think I tried, what was that? I tried Babbel, I think, like a week ago. And it was still just translating stuff at the beginning. I tried learning French or something like that just to see how it was. But it was the same kind of thing where you're translating different sentences. It's not really giving you certainty because it doesn't really let you play with the language. It's not like Frederick, like how you can test different things and see what happens, which is really what gives you certainty about the language. Sergio says, hello. Brendan says, hey, Drew, I think you're the only one who teaches with the methodology naturally varied review. Yes. Well, this is my name for it. And I think some people might, I don't know, they might do something like that. But again, often teachers are thinking about the language itself, like teaching a word or a phrase or something, but they're not really thinking about actual communication. So when you get into a conversation with someone, they're going to speak differently than I am. So I might teach you a word, but then a real, like, a native speaker or a person in a movie or something, they will either say it faster, or maybe it will be less clear, or they will express it differently or in a different accent, something like that. So if you only listen to me, you can learn the language, but you're not going to be well prepared for real life. But when you do get lots of examples, even before you have conversations, you will feel much better about that. So, like, you should learn with, somebody who can give you good information and help you feel certain about things, but also feel certain about the language in communication. If you only know the language, you're still going to feel stuck. So you need to get examples, with one person or many teachers who can help you, but also lots of examples of real people speaking. So Youglish is a good way to do that. Fluent for Life, obviously. That's why the program is designed the way it is, to give people certainty and confidence. Let's see, Mike says, I study English no more. I just enjoy watching criminal videos, and all of YouTube stuff, only consuming English around the clock. Yep, so that's a good way to do it. Often what happens with people is they're kind of learning they're getting lots of input, and even if they can understand it all, they might not remember everything. So making people think, okay, I'm kind of hearing these things, but I'm getting lots of different input, and it's not very systematic. So the way to learn things, like what, who was that? I was just mentioning it. So Brittany talking about naturally varied review. Let's say you watch one, I don't know what you mean by a criminal video, if it's like a video about criminals or solving crimes or something, but you watch one video about that, and then you watch another video about a similar thing. Or we're going to talk about, here are 5 different videos all talking about that same criminal or the same crime, something like that. You take some kind of famous incident like the O.J. Simpson situation years ago. If you watch a bunch of different videos about that, you're going to learn a lot and really, really understand the language very well. So be more systematic if you notice that you're consuming a lot of English, but you're not progressing very quickly. If you can be more systematic, you will make progress even faster. But you're on the right track. Danielle says, already replied to the email. I wanted to understand English like a native, and Fluent for Life does just that. I thought it was just like any other ESL program. It could not be farther from the truth. Well, I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad you're enjoying the program. So yeah, it's been tricky for me over the years to try to explain to people what I do, because they don't believe it's possible. I say, instead of learning through your language, like trying to study through translations, I'm going to help you understand everything in English. And people think well, how are you going to do that? How does that work? And so that's why all these YouTube videos, it's just me giving lots of examples of that. But yeah, I'm glad you're doing well. Tuck says, when it comes to listening, I can hear some sounds and others I can't hear, but I kind of understand the whole context. So when you go through naturally varied review, can we hear the words? Can we hear the words I can't hear? Yes. So what happens, as an example of a kind of naturally varied review, is hearing different people say the same sentence. So I might have a sentence like, does it give you certainty? And then I hear a little girl say, does it give you certainty? Or an old guy's like, does it give you certainty? Does it give you certainty? Does it give you certainty? And so if you only heard the old guy example first, and that's the only example you heard, you would think, what? What did that guy say? Does it give you certainty? You don't have much context. You can't understand. But if I can give you a bunch of different examples, then all of them become easier to understand. It's kind of like how you would teach AI to recognize a language. You don't just give it one example, you give it a bunch of varied examples to help it really understand how the language works. So especially in the AI case, it's really just looking at text examples, because you can't really hear very well. I mean, you can do text or speaking to text, but it's not hearing the pronunciation differences. And so when you're learning, you need to hear all of those examples. But yes, as an example, hearing the same sentence or word or whatever spoken by different people is what really prepares you to speak. So if you want to understand English in English and actually prepare for real communication, that's how we do it. So you can do this by yourself. Like it is possible to find examples of different things and get this, like learn this way on your own. But it's just like, it's a big hassle, a pain in the ass really to do it. And I know because I did that with Japanese. And so I continue to learn that way, and I wish I had a program like Fluent for Life for Japanese. I have not found that yet, so I just kind of make it myself as I get different examples. But that's how I'm doing it. Let's see. All right, Sergio says, what is the best way for learning English lonely? Do you mean alone, like learning English by yourself? Just what I just described. So you would get lots of different examples that help you feel certain about the language. Sometimes you can get just one example, like one good story that helps you understand a word or phrase, and you think, I got it. It's what I call an aha moment. So natives describe this when we discover something or realize something, like solving a puzzle, then you feel, like I got it. I really understand how something works now. So sometimes we need to hear different examples or multiple examples of things, but the goal is to feel certain. And so when people think, how do I get fluent by myself? That's how you do it. So as an example, you watch a bunch of videos about how to, fix a tire on your car or whatever you care about. Maybe find something, I don't know what your interests are, but connect your interests to the language and find things that you're, if you like ballet dancing or, whatever, like, whatever you're interested in. And so when you do that, the point is it's almost like learning in layers. Like you get the first example, maybe you don't understand it. You get another example, another example, another example, and finally it clicks in your head like, now I got it. Okay, so it could be one example that helps you understand something, but usually we need more than one, and that also helps us remember things as well. Also, this is a way to keep you from being bored by just repeating the same thing again and again. So multiple different examples from different speakers in different contexts, that's what really helps you understand the language. But all of these different things, like when I try to explain Fluent for Life, really the point is just to give you certainty, and I will do this in a variety of ways, just like I'm doing in these videos here. So if anybody has any questions about that program or anything that maybe you'd like to join but you're unsure about something, let me know. So also, you could be learning lonely as well. Maybe not just alone, but you feel like I'm like lonely. But you would be able to improve the same way. Whether you are learning alone or you are being lonely. You feel kind of sad and lonely while you learn. But you can improve in the same way. And you don't need to find people to practice with. The point is just certainty. Like, does it give you certainty? All right, so you can become certain and confident before you speak, all right? I usually say, you don't have to speak, but I think people maybe just think that's unbelievable. So it's better to just say you can feel certain and confident before you speak, all right? All right, I'm trying to get through these as quickly as I can. Let's see, that's like so let's see, Maximiniano. Is that your real name? You got like Max and Minnie in there. That's awesome. Drew, you pretty much discovered this platform called YouTube. So glad you're still here after all these years. Yeah, I heard about YouTube even like the year it started. I didn't really think about teaching on YouTube. I feel kind of late, actually. But yeah, it's still a good way for me to help people understand how to get fluent, and still lots of people still have the same issues, as you can see in these comments. Every time I do a video, it's still the same kinds of issues. So that's why I'm trying to solve that. But thank you. Yeah, I'm still here. Lily says, are you going to talk an hour to express one word? Take an hour to express one word, sir. Sometimes I do. It happens. Sometimes. Mike, let's see. What do you think about subtitles? What's your own opinion about that? Does it help you get fluent? Does it give you certainty? I use subtitles. I don't have a problem with subtitles. I don't even know why that's like a conversation for some people. Again, if I'm just learning to do something, like learning how to ride a bike, maybe it's a good idea to have little, like what we call training wheels on the side. So here's does that picture show up here? So here's a bicycle. When a young child is learning, they might have little training wheels on each side of the bike to help them learn. People say, well, is it a good idea to use training wheels? Why not? You know, I don't see a problem with that. If it's giving you certainty, if it makes you feel more confident and it helps you learn how to ride, then yeah, sure, why not? Let's see. But yeah, you go ahead, use subtitles. I still use subtitles, especially when I'm learning Japanese and listening to music. And I think, what is that person saying? I can't. And even my wife, I say, what are they talking about? And she's like, I don't know. So the point is, again, to get clarity and certainty. And then, it's not like, oh, I feel bad because I need subtitles. I mean, even native speakers use subtitles sometimes. Let's see here. How are we doing? 78 minutes so far on this. All right. Teslin says limb. Bridget says hello. And Brittany says I use Pomodoro timer to study anything. My brain doesn't get bored to death. Yeah. And so what happens, again, you're mentioning about this method about how much time people should spend doing stuff. Imagine if you go to a movie and the movie says, okay, we're going to show you the movie for only 10 minutes or 20 minutes, and then we're going to stop and take a break. You would say, no, keep the movie going because you enjoy the movie. It's like if you're reading a book. If you enjoy the book, you don't want to put it down. You want to keep reading the book. So whenever I hear about a method that's like, we're only going to make you study for 25 minutes and then you stop, that sounds like I'm going to hate the method because it's going to be boring and I'm going to want to take a break. So if it's boring for you, okay, I have to study, this is boring for me, it's difficult, then of course it's going to be okay, I need to have some kind of break time in there. But if you enjoy what you do, you don't want to take a break. It's like kids playing outside all day. They don't need to take a break. They just enjoy doing what they're doing. So find a method that gives you certainty, and that will actually let you enjoy what you're doing. So you don't, it's like if you watch a bunch of YouTube videos, you could spend hours doing that and still improve your English, but actually enjoy what you're doing. Majed said, keep on loves. Wasn't expecting you on Friday. Yeah, I wasn't. Usually I'm on Thursday, Japan time, but just happened to switch for today. Rin TV says, hello, sir. Should we memorize all the varied examples or can we recall when it's time for us to speak in English? I mean, get as many examples as you need if you feel like, I kind of forget a word. So I might learn a new word in context and still forget it if I don't spend a little bit of time with it. So the first part of understanding is getting that certainty. If you don't understand what something means, you probably won't remember it anyway. So get that certainty first and then get a few examples. So that's why in Fluent for Life, you will hear something and then you will hear it again in a different way and then you will hear it again in a different way, and it's building your understanding and memory naturally. So you should want to get multiple examples, but it's even better than repetition is getting varied examples of things, because your brain is like, ooh, here's a new example or a slightly different way of pronouncing it or something like that, and that's more interesting to your brain than just repeating something again and again. Cartoons. Yeah, you could watch cartoons as well. Need to speak faster and with contraction and idioms. Yes. So if you're unprepared for natives, it will be more difficult for you in conversations. Vincent said, morning, Drew. I nearly miss the boat. You'd say to miss the boat. The boat is over here and you're trying to run. You almost missed the boat. If you say mess the boat, that means you're making the boat all dirty. But very good. Nice to see you there. Learn and Grow says the same sentence can change its meaning depending upon how it's being spoken. Isn't it? Yes, that can happen. Brittany says, I would like you to make more videos for English teachers because one of my biggest dreams is to become an English teacher. Well, how many videos do you need for that? We have over 700 videos, and I've covered really everything excuse me, you would need to understand as a teacher. I even made a video specifically about how to teach English as a first language, and all of the videos I do, it's all helping people understand English that way. So if you have a specific question about that, let me know. Let's see. Brittany says, does Fluent for Life help you reach C2 level, a C2 level native speaker level? Yes. So that's the whole point of the program, is it will teach you the language and help you understand it like a native, so you can use it like a native. That's how it works. So when you understand something like a native, you can use it like a native. But if you're uncertain, if you don't understand it like a native, when you think about grammar rules like a student, then you will think like a student and struggle to speak. Sergio says, thank you. Yeah, that was pretty funny. Tiago says, what's up, big fella? I'd like to be an English teacher, and I would like to teach beginners. But I live in Brazil, where we don't speak English as a first language. Do you have some tips? Get Frederick. So in the link below this video, or in the description below this video, you will see a link to Frederick. Get a bunch of kids together, or beginners, whatever. If they all have a phone, use Frederick together. Use it with them, and they will become confident speakers. You will be amazed at how quickly they improve. So they don't need to have any kind of translations in order to do it. They will learn English in English, and you can even speak with them if you like. But the point is just giving them the opportunity that you can understand the language in the language. Blanca says, for me, the most difficult is how to write. That's kind of a different topic, and especially if you're talking about particular kinds of writing. But if you want to be a good academic writing or academic writer, or you're talking about copywriting for business or something like that, just look at lots of examples and actually copy those examples, and you will get better at writing whatever it is you're writing. So read a lot and write a lot. Brittany says, Drew, is it a good thing if I try to practice speaking English with myself? I mean, I don't do that. I don't know. Again, like, does that give you certainty? So repetition isn't really going to help you very much because it's not giving you new information. So if I take a word or a phrase and I'm just repeating that to myself, I'm not learning anymore, so I'm not really developing stronger fluency. Fluency really comes from understanding and feeling more certain about vocabulary. So for me, and this is what I recommend, it's much better for you to get, if you're going to spend time, like if I will take 10 minutes in my day trying to repeat things myself, or I could spend 10 minutes listening to other people giving me new, varied examples of the language, I would rather do the second one. I would rather get lots of good examples from other people rather than me trying to speak. All right? So I know, like, people have an idea, and I'll be talking about this in my book as well. Let's see. So people typically have an idea of practice makes perfect. Have you heard this phrase before? Practice makes perfect. Practice makes perfect. It means as you practice doing something, you become better at doing that thing. Now, the reason this doesn't really apply, or it doesn't apply very well to language learning, is because the real communication situation is unpredictable. So we're going to look at two, very quickly, different kinds of learning, or two different kinds of activities you might do. So I'll just put piano, or like giving a speech, or like, we'll just say karate, or anything else like that. And this will be like speaking in conversation. So these are two different kinds of activities, and when we talk about practice makes perfect, that really only applies to this one over here. So if I'm learning a piano song, I can go home and practice that, and I will learn, like, okay, I practice that, I make a mistake, I practice it again, I practice and practice and practice, and then when I give a concert, I can like do that thing very well. I can you know, I know the song, I can play the song very well. And then, like, same thing with giving a speech. So I'm practicing a speech, I say it again and again, and then I give the speech at an actual, you know, like dinner or whenever I'm talking. And the same thing with karate. Let's say I'm like practicing a karate punch, something like that, so I can do it perfectly. It's basically the same thing. Now, real fighting is a little bit different. It's a little bit more like a conversation. But the main thing that's different about these ideas is all of these things, it's a predictable outcome. I know if I practice a song, I can play that song perfectly, because nobody's going to come up on stage and try to stop me from, like, they're not going to give me different music or explain something differently to me. It's pretty easy to do this. So practice makes perfect. I can practice something knowing that I will do it correctly, for the concert or whatever. But here, practice doesn't make perfect, because I can listen to, a bunch of different examples of some like audio lesson or watch a video or something, but native speakers will speak differently, and each conversation is unique. So we can't just know the language, we have to be prepared for how people actually speak. And that's why when you're asking, like, is it a good idea to get a bunch of, examples of something like that? And I say, well, you actually need to get a bunch of examples of people actually speaking. You need to hear different speakers. You need to hear people speaking in different situations, like some people explaining something or some people talking about how they feel or whatever. So it's a whole different variety of things that really prepares you for conversations and how to connect words together. So I don't want to only know the words. I can't just take a word list or grammar rules and memorize them. I need to see how all of these things work together and connect, okay? So when people talk about practice makes perfect, that's why they think about, like, I need to speak to myself. I need to practice. I need to practice speaking with other people. So it's great if you can do that, but what's really happening in conversations is, especially if you as a language learner are speaking with a native, if you have that chance, often you are getting examples from them that help you understand the language better. So it's not what you say to them that gives you a little bit of improvement, but you get a lot more improvement by paying attention to their examples. So right now you're listening to me speaking. You're not speaking. Maybe you are saying something or copying me or whatever, but really you're getting lots of information from me that's helping you improve your English fluency and understanding, okay? So even in a conversation, like speaking, talking to yourself, I don't care about doing this. I don't spend my time talking to myself in Japanese because I don't need to do that. I just spend my time getting lots of examples, either from something like YouTube, because I haven't found a course, like a Japanese course that can really give me good examples of that, or I'm just listening to natives, okay? So speaking in conversations it's a different thing than the other ways that people might think about practice. So if you're talking about like speaking to yourself, that's probably not going to help you as well as actually getting examples of real people speaking. So don't worry about trying to force yourself to speak. The important thing is certainty. So I'd rather rather than me repeating a word, I want to hear 10 different native speakers say that same thing. I will feel much more confident about how to say it. So even if a teacher gives me a rule, like here's how you say this word, I go into real conversations and people still pronounce it differently because each person has their own voice. Okay, so you still want to get lots of examples. It's good to hear things clearly from a teacher like you're doing right now, but you should also be getting lots of examples of how people actually speak. All right, so I don't spend my time like talking to myself. I might like say a word or something, but if I notice I'm saying something in my head, it means I probably don't understand it very well. So I should probably get more examples of it. I'm thinking like, how does that word work? Or like, am I using that grammar point correctly or something? Like, then it's going to be more difficult for me. Let's see, who did I skip? So Tuck says, natives connect each grammar rule with situations as well as words. Yeah, and so again, natives are getting all that. They're getting lots of different examples, but you can do the same thing. This is not 100 years ago where, like, let's say you live in Egypt and you don't have access to YouTube or anything. You just have an English textbook and that's your only access to English. You have access to the whole world right now. So there's nothing stopping you from getting those examples. So either you get them for free by, taking your time. So you either use your time or use your money, but you will be using something. I recommend using money because you can get time, like you only get so much of it. You can easily get money back, but time is much more valuable. And so when you're looking for examples of things, it is possible to get that. But remember, it's the examples that get you fluent, not just studying more words or grammar. Danielle says, you said you were answering my question, but I don't know which one. Haha, I joined late. So at the beginning of this one, you were asking before at the beginning of like my team got that question from you about what was the example? Now I forget the example. So go over a line versus go over a cliff. Or go over the edge. So I was talking about that at the beginning of the video. Hopefully our response made it clear for you, but the visual example should make it even better. So I recommend you go back and watch that when we're done here. Rafael says, hello, excellent class from Dominican Republic. Sergio, always your class is very excellent. Glad to hear it. So hopefully, like, you can tell me why you like the lessons, but for most people, I think it's because I'm giving them certainty and confidence. So that's my whole goal, to really help you understand English like a native so you feel confident about using the language. So Riven says, yep, I recommend Frederick. You will learn English faster and also pronunciation. Yeah. Teacher, drink some water. All right. This is my sponsor, Suntory Tennensui. これ美味しいですよ. My Japanese sponsor of my mineral water. Let's see, Brenda says, today I have learned some interesting phrases while watching WWE Royal Rumble. My pick is John Cena, everything goes here, etc. Very good. If you enjoy wrestling, then that's going to help. I can't read the example. Only 497 pratas. I don't know what that's referring to. If that's talking about the price of Fluent for Life from this video, though, for people thinking about, like, I don't know if I should join the program because it's expensive, like, is speaking valuable to you or not? I know a lot of people, like, they could be getting promotions at work, or they could be doing lots of other things that would earn them way more money if they could speak. And so for most people, fluency is worth much more than the price that they would pay for the program. And when people join, they feel better. Like even Daniela was just giving some examples right here in the chat. But yeah, like you when you understand English like a native, like it's definitely worth it. And she joined the program at that price. Let's see, Nils says, I'm waiting for your book. Glad to hear it. Yeah, I thought about starting a book kind of club, because I thought it might be useful to have other people who are very interested in working on the book and seeing it before I publish it. And yeah, kind of writing, well, not like writing it, but if they have particular questions or me getting to test particular ideas. So maybe that's an interesting thing to think about. Let's see, Mike says, don't forget to smash that like button. We're twice than them. Let's see. Yeah, well, don't break the like button. Just push it gently, but push it many times and tell other people to push it as well. All right, 8 minutes, hitting twice. Maria says, I do, teacher. Sergio Leone, look at that. Every day I practice with story in YouTube or Duolingo or books. Yeah. So make sure the goal is certainty, that you have a particular thing you're trying to learn and that you feel confident about using it. That's how you know you will make progress. What's in the name says, hi, Drew. Good morning. I had read somewhere where you explain different stages of vocabulary, language understanding, and gain command over it. Could you please explain it? Well, you can watch. I guess I can talk about this very quickly. I don't remember the name of the video where I talk about this, but it might be like talking about the stages of understanding vocabulary. So at the lowest level, we can just have 0, where you don't understand anything at all. So you just have no contact with the language or particular vocabulary. Level 1 is exposure. Exposure is like you're hearing something, like you hear, some sound. You're at a train station and you hear an announcement. It's like, but you can't hear it very clearly. So you're getting exposed to the language. Number 2 is where you have awareness. This is where you actually feel confident. You can understand something, so you know what something is said. So that same train example you can hear, and I gave this example, I think in that video, but I was actually at a train station here in Japan, and I heard like I heard some Japanese and I didn't understand what it was. I was like, what is that saying? And even when I heard it many times, I was only getting exposure to it because it wasn't very clear. And then I asked my wife, I said, what are they saying? And she couldn't really hear it well either, but she understood from the context. She was like, that's like tamok tekitoide. And I was like, what? Like, okay, I get it. Like now I understood. It's kind of like getting subtitles. So you hear something or see something and you're not very clear about it. But then like now I understand, I can hear the announcement clearly, even though it's the same bad announcement. But I've got awareness. I recognize the information. I'm able to understand it. But a lot of people get stuck here because they don't eliminate all of the doubt. They still feel uncertain about how to use something. And so when you become certain, when you have all of that uncertainty gone, you have what I call ownership, O-W-N-E-R-S-H-I-P. You own the language. You become a native speaker when you own a particular word or phrase or even the language generally. So you get ownership of the language. So this is typically the stages that people go through when they're learning something. They get new vocabulary, and often people get stuck here. So this is why many learners know so much English. They've still got some kind of uncertainty here that's stopping them from using the language. All right, so whatever that is, it could be, I don't know how to pronounce that, or I'm not sure about how to use it, or the grammar point, or whatever, but they don't really own the language. When you own the language, you really know how to use it very easily. You don't forget the word. It's just like a very fluent thing for you. So those are the, really it's 3 stages, but I put 0 because, it's before you even hear a word, just starting with 0 like that. But that's basically it. So you get exposed, you have awareness, and then you have ownership. Other people might call those, different things, but I thought this is the easiest way to explain this process for people. Let me know if that makes sense. Brittany says, what I used to do to kind of learn English was to try to talk to myself, and whenever I didn't know how to say something, I would use Google Translate and then would try to learn that phrase or word. Yeah, so it's good to do that, but remember, if your goal is to actually communicate with other people, then you should spend more time doing that. Like more time, even if you can't actually talk with them, just getting examples of how those people speak. So like me, I can listen to conversations. I watch a channel here in Japan called Interviewing Japan, and this is a really good way to get naturally varied review. So you can see how well it would work. Here's a particular topic for the video. We're going to ask random people on the street what they think about something, and you will hear some of the same explanations, some different ones, some people expressing things more quickly or more clearly than others. And so that's giving me naturally varied review. It's like a particular focus. We're going to get some different examples of it, and then we're going to learn some new vocabulary, other things like that. So it's not really designed as a language learning thing, but it works very well in that way. Let's see. So Dennis said, cross the line and go over the edge. Yep. So go over the line and go over the edge. So Maria says, great, with some exclamation points, and Sergio with some ja. I like the, it's like the Spanish or like, I get maybe Portuguese does the same thing. It's like ja. Like in English, we're like LOL, Raphael says, do you think it is good? It's a good idea to practice English with AI. If you like, if it's giving you certainty, sure. But remember, AI, the same thing with AI is the same problem that you have with even speaking with a regular teacher. So you're going to get clear examples from AI, and it's going to sound much different than how people really speak. All right. Oh, Spanish is like, okay. I like ja. Let's see. And then Bridge says, thinking of mind and how it works when reading, why so many things come, so focus is lost. Why, when reading, why so many things? I don't understand your question, Bridget, but it sounds like you think about many things while you're reading, like the actual process of reading is more difficult for you. In general, I recommend people, if you're trying to improve with reading, you're trying to improve your English with reading, read things that you can understand a lot of already. That way you can learn new things in context. Mike says, Brazilians laugh with a I know it's a whole language lesson right here with just how different people laugh. But actually, as like an interesting point about that, if you made a different video, like where you were just contrasting, like here's the Brazilian flag, like how people laugh in Brazil, how people laugh in America or whatever, and like you would learn that very quickly without even getting any explanation. It's how exactly how Frederick works, where you can see different things, you can compare them, and so you understand them very well. And then the natural review that you get by seeing things in different ways, like I would hear, oh, I'm like hearing someone else laugh, like, oh, that's a Brazilian guy laughing, something like that. So in the same way, you can learn language and become a more confident speaker. So hopefully, I'll repeat this word here. The goal is certainty. That's what will allow you to speak. Some people, maybe they don't need to feel certain in order to speak, and maybe they can make mistakes and they don't care. But most of the people I help do want to speak correctly because it's important for their life or their job or whatever to be correct, to actually express yourself and have good conversations with people. So in order to do this, you really need to get lots of good examples of how natives actually speak. So I don't recommend you spend your time trying to talk to yourself. You can do that, but the more examples you get that actually give you certainty, and sometimes you need multiple examples to do that, the faster you become a confident speaker, all right? So certainty gives you confidence, and confidence lets you speak, instead of the traditional way where you try to speak first to develop confidence and certainty. All right, so it seems like a backwards way of learning, but it's much faster because you don't have to wait for anyone to speak with. You can just get lots of examples. So either you can do this by yourself, or if you'd like me to have you, or just have it all lined up for you and all waiting, that's what we do in Fluent for Life. So if you'd like to learn more about that, you can click on the links in the description below this video to learn more about Fluent for Life and get Frederick as well, especially if you're either starting or you're trying to help someone else who is a beginner, or you feel like you make a lot of basic mistakes and you want to learn like a lot of good examples of things. It was not a video, I read it. What's in the name? Now I don't remember what that's referring to. It's called onomatopoeia. Okay. I think you guys are talking with, sure. Yeah, if you're talking about like describing the sound name for those kinds of things. Anyway, I'm losing my voice, but hopefully you have enjoyed this video. If you have, don't smash the like button. Just be gentle. Tap it gently, tap it neatly and nicely, but tap it a bunch of times so YouTube knows, hey, this is a good thing. And please recommend the video. And if, again, you'd like to learn more about how I can help you to save you a lot of time and get you fluent much faster, click on the links in the description below this video. Also, if you have joined Frederick, if you do have the app, please leave us a review. So go to the App Store in Google or the App Store in Apple and please leave us a review. Let's see. Sergio says let's see. I received a PDF file from English. Anyone? Teacher, when is your next class? It's like, yeah, okay. Probably next Thursday. That should be next Thursday, Japan time. Oh, Eunice, nice to see you there. All right, that will be it for today. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.